Hello there, and welcome to Hobbies of All, Master of None. Here I have a 1500 piece puzzle of Pokemon from Ravensburgers. It's got quite a few Pokemons and quite a few more pieces. So before I start putting the puzzle together, I'm going to need a plan of attack.
I have a plan. Attack.
No, not quite that. So I thought I would start by separating the pieces for each individual Pokemon and then assemble each Pokemon, leaving out the difficult pieces of the sky and the terrain until the last bit. And that is roughly what I did, along with a few hiccups. Also, I thought, why not? For this video, let's also go through some Pokemon trivia as well as we go along. Leave a comment down below to guess which Pokemon would be the first to be completed, and how long it took me to do the entire puzzle, as well as if any of the trivias were actual trivias. So to start off, I got a frame and then used the backboard to build on, so that I don't have to slide the puzzle onto the backboard afterwards. So to try and separate the pieces, I thought I would use a Ferrero box, but soon quickly found that it was too small to fit all of the pieces in for any decent sized Pokemon, other than the really small ones. So I changed tacks and used the top and bottom of the box for the sky and terrain pieces, and just bunch up the Pokemon pieces on where they would roughly be. It took me quite a while to get the first Pokemon done, so zoom!
Yay! Togepi!
The first complete Pokemon come up at 13 hours and 21 minutes, and it's Togepi. Do you know that Togepi was the first baby Pokemon, and also the only baby Pokemon to appear before its evolution forms?
Pichu!
2 hours later, at 15 hours and 12 minutes, another baby Pokemon, and this time it's Pichu. In the Pokemon Adventures manga, the best Pokemon manga in my opinion, Yellow was the one who named the species Pichu, after the first Pichu, Pibu's, parents Pika and Chuchu. Actually, at this point, I was starting to work on the edges and seemed to have misplaced some of the pieces. This led me to believe that I had accidentally ordered the frame that was too small, and then decided to take the puzzle off the backboard, carefully, and then finish the puzzle first to make sure it wasn't just me being silly. Spoiler alert, it was just me being dumb, and I spent too much time on this puzzle at that one sitting.
Eevee!
Just before the 16th hour, we have Eevee, my favorite cute Pokemon. And the anime also agrees with me, as it is the only Pokemon species to have been owned by more than 2 different main characters, May, Serena, and Lana. Now the entirety of the puzzle took me a whole 24 hours, and the first 2 days was over the Easter long weekend. And that's just straight up all I did for those 2 days. And that's probably a bad idea. You know when you read a word so many times it seems strange and doesn't look right? Your brain essentially thinks it's unimportant and just doesn't process it. So after a day of work and then coming back into it, the pile of pieces suddenly seems to make sense and go in places where previously tried, but for it doesn't fit. Now at this point you might have thought that there's quite a few more Pokemon that's been completed. But actually no, not actually completed, because it's missing the tiny details that you might not be able to see. Like the elbow of the Psyduck that we completed here in 17 hours and 52 minutes.
Psyduck.
According to Junichi Musada, his favourite Pokemon Psyduck was apparently considered as partner Pokemon in the Let's Go game instead of Eevee. But it wasn't chosen because it was too similar in colour. And I'm glad that Eevee took that spot instead. No one really would have bought Let's Go Psyduck, would they? A couple minutes after that, another Pokemon that's very close to being done, but not actually done, is done. Charmander coming in at 17 hours and 54 minutes. The first designs of Charmander actually has spikes along the back, and these were shown in the Gen 1 sprites, as well as blue Charmander in the Pokemon Adventures manga, and green Charmander in Pokemon Pocket Monsters manga. Half an hour later I seem to have completed Wartortle, but I must have thought that the top corner piece was going to contribute to the tail. But it didn't. Anyway, apparently the early promotion pictures of Wartortle shows that the ear colours was going to be the same as the face like Squirtle and Blastoise, and that changed.
Flareon.
At 18 hours and 55 minutes, Flareon finally got the tip of its ear. Now Flareon has an internal temperature that peaks at 1650 Fahrenheit, which is 900 degrees Celsius, and can melt aluminium. Given this is a fantasy world, we don't have to worry about him just melting the rocks and slowly sinking into the core of the earth. We won't get another breakthrough for an hour until 19 hours and 43 minutes, but we have quite a few this time instead of just the one.
Jolteon.
Another evolution is done, Jolteon getting the final bits of his white tuff. While Jolteon doesn't look like he has a tail, he is actually shown to have one in the Electric Tail of Pikachu manga.
Mew.
Just a minute later we get Mew. Mew is said to be the ancestors of all Pokemon. It's taken over 20 years and 981 episodes to make an actual debut in the main anime series, the longest out of any Pokemon.
Ninetales.
10 minutes after Mew, we finally finish the majestic tales of Ninetales. Not sure why the English spelling of Ninetales refer to fairy tales instead of the number of tales like Japanese, Korean or Chinese names.
Vulpix. Vulpix.
5 minutes later we got Vulpix, again finishing off that cute bundle of tales. The beta name of Vulpix is Foxfire, and I actually kind of like that. I also wish there's a 3-tail baby version and we can buff up the Ninetales evolution line. It is just so majestic and beautiful.
Jigglypuff.
Jigglypuff is next after another 5 minutes. The Japanese name of Jigglypuff is pudding, fitting name for a sweet Pokemon that sends you to sleep.
Gastly.
At the 20-hour mark, we get Gastly. The Gastly line is not only unique in its typing of Ghost and Poison, but it is also the only Pokemon that has the same weight as its evolution, Haunter. More on him later.
Dragonite.
20 hours and 50 minutes, we finish Dragonite, with the little bit of his tail missing for a long time. In the early Red and Blue games, if you follow a couple of steps and use a Firestone, you can actually evolve Dragonite into Yoshi. Yeah, that was an April Fool's joke from the April of 1999 in Expert Gamer magazine.
It is that.
We finally complete Ditto in 20 hours and 27 minutes. Again, just a little bits of line art required. Ditto can breed pretty much every single Pokemon, but it cannot breed itself.
Onix. Done.
20 hours and 45 minutes. Onix. Now there is a special Onix in the anime called the Crystal Onix, shown in the 87th episode, made of crystals instead of rocks. It doesn't have a water weakness and can happily get in and out of water.
Venusaur. Done. Venusaur done. Venusaur done.
Venusaur, finally done at 21 hours and 50 minutes, missing that very top bit of the flower for ages. Due to the censoring of offensive words on the global trade system, the GTS, it wasn't possible to trade a Venusaur without nicknaming it.
Wobbuffet.
We have Wobbuffet at 21 hours and 23 minutes. Who knew that Wobbuffet had eyes on its tail? I was so confused when I was looking at the piece puzzle with eyes on a black bit. I was like, which Pokemon has that? Wobbuffet is also very protective of his tail and will turn aggressive if you attack it.
Raichu's done as well now.
We have got another burst of Pokemon done, Raichu at 21 hours and 32 minutes. Originally it was going to have another evolution, Gulachu, with 2 horns and fangs. But the game developers removed it for game balance and also the game size. It is also not possible to evolve your starter Pikachu into a Raichu into the Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu game or the original Pokemon Yellow game. That references the anime that Ash's Pikachu never evolved.
Squirt's also done too. Squirt.
Squirtle came in just a minute later. Initially Ash wanted a Squirtle as his starter, but because he was late, Gary took that. Ash later got his own Squirtle after saving its life from Team Rocket.
Meowth is done now, definitely.
And speaking of Team Rocket, Meowth comes in 2 minutes later. The Meowth we know with Jesse and James had to learn to walk and talk like a human, and was the first Pokemon in the anime to talk. Mewtwo, the only legendary in this puzzle, completed at 21 hours and 50 minutes, and I forgot to be excited about finishing him for some reason. Probably too focused and thought he was either done previously or I have more to do. Mewtwo was created by Team Rocket and is a clone of Mew using an eyelash, but comes before Mew in the Pokédex. Originally it was only depicted that there was only ever one Mewtwo created, but in the anime it is implied that multiple were created. From the uncut story of Mewtwo's origin anime, the experiment from Dr. Fuji only started because he wanted to clone his deceased daughter Amber. Although unfortunately for Amber too, she didn't have the genetic makeup of Mewtwo to survive the experiment. Mewtwo is also the only legendary Pokemon with 2 Mega Evolutions, although for me the best version of Mewtwo is still the armoured version while it was training or being restrained by Giovanni. Onto the 22nd hour of the puzzle build, we're getting more Pokemon done, as well as most of the background as well.
Machop is done.
Machop getting the final corner of his fist, which he can apparently hold up to 100 adults. Like some sort of human bowling, I guess. It also likes to work out and practice all different forms of martial arts.
Lucario's done so.
And speaking of martial arts, we have Lucario, a metal and fighting type Pokemon, and also probably my favorite Pokemon. It first debuted in the 8th movie, Lucario and the Mystery of Mew, but also died in that movie as well. Next up, Butterfree, the first Pokemon that Ash caught, evolved to the final form, traded away, got traded back, and then released.
Charizard's done. Yay!
After that we have Charizard is finally done. He's been hanging up there for a while. Charizard is the most popular Gen 1 Pokemon as a result of the 2020 Pokemon of the Year poll, as well as being the most popular Pokemon amongst the champions.
Vaporeon.
Another one that's just missing a tiny piece, Vaporeon at 22 hours and 27 minutes. Do you know that in terms of...
No, Pikachu's done.
Pikachu!
Pikachu is done at 22 hours and 39 minutes. A Pokemon that needs no introduction, the mascot of Pokemon, so likely people do know quite a bit about it. I have found something though. The nation of Niue, a small country island in the South Pacific Ocean, released coins with Pokemon on one side as legal tender from 2001 and 2002. This includes Bulbasaur, Charmander, Squirtle, Meowth, and of course Pikachu, as well as some others. Another thing is that in 2008, Japanese scientists named the protein Pikachurum, which helps carry electrical impulses from the eye to the brain. And finally, Pikachu is the only core series starter Pokemon with a pre-evolution form. Although in the games where Pikachu is a starter, you can't get Pichu.
Haunter.
Back to Haunter at 22 hours and 29 minutes, 2.5 hours after Gastly was done. The Japanese name for Haunter is just Ghost, Gosto, which really is just lazy naming, but considering Gastly is just Ghost, it's not really much better. The prototype name in English for Gastly and Haunter was Spirit and Spectre respectively, which really is still just saying Ghost.
Bulbasaur.
Bulbasaur is the last Pokemon before we get to the 23rd hour with 7 minutes to spare. Bulbasaur was the first original starter that Ash got as the start of his journey, and Bulbasaur was the only one in the team that refused to evolve when evolution process has begun.
Are you done? Gengar is done.
We are now getting the last of our Pokemons completed. 2 minutes past the 23rd hour, Gengar is completed. Gengar is the only one in the evolution line to have a weight that is not the same as the previous evolutions, weighing in at around 40 kilos instead of the 0.1 kilos of Gastly and Haunter. Similar to Gastly and Haunter, the prototype name is another ghost-related word, Spectre, although the name Gengar seems to have come from the word doppelganger instead.
Snorlax done.
6 minutes in and we have Snorlax done. The Japanese name of Snorlax is Tabigon, which is derived from Kirby, the other famous Nintendo mascot. Also, the main inspiration for Snorlax was the game designer Koji Nishino, who likes to eat a lot and has a nickname Kirby.
Charmeleon's done. And Ivysaur's done.
8 and 9 minutes in, we have Ivysaur and Charmeleon done. Both second stages evolutions of the Kanto starters. Not much really to add to what I've done before.
Puzzle. Gyarados is also done. You didn't need a piece.
What I very much did looking back at the footage. Gyarados is done at 22 hours and 45 minutes. I'm glad they didn't go with the original design, which doesn't look appealing at all. Also, it is tied with Pelipper as being the most commonly used Pokemon amongst gym leaders, being used by 7. Although I can only find 5, so someone help me with the last 2.
And Mimikyu is done, and that's the final Pokemon. On.
Also, ignore the singing, it's just as terrifying as if you saw the true form of Mimikyu, you will just die. And I'm dying of shame right now.
Where does this piece go then? Where is the rock? There! Blastoise is also done.
And finally we have our last Pokemon, Blastoise at 23 hours and 11 minutes. Blastoise is actually a shellfish Pokemon, unlike Squirtle, which is a tiny turtle, and Wartortle, which is a turtle Pokemon. In Capsule Monsters, the precursor concept idea of Pokemon, Blastoise didn't actually have his signature cannons, and was called Carabaggio. Oh, you go there. And you will go here, and this is done. And that's it. All I have to do now is to preserve the puzzle using the puzzle preserver, and then slide it back onto the frame backing, and then just frame it up. No. What do you think of the puzzle? Let me know down in the comments below, and let me know what you think of the trivia that I found on the internet. Also check out my other content. I do lots of other things, like Pokemon cards opening, like building more models, like playing the piano, whatever pops up here. And I'll see you on the next video of Master of None. Bye!